India and Denmark share close relationship. We have seen a lot of momentum in the relationship. Both the countries are celebrating 75 years of this relationship. With me is the Speaker of the Danish Parliament. Sir, welcome to WION. It's great to speak with you here in New Delhi. You are on a week-long visit to India. But let me start with your first comments or thoughts about your India visit. What will be the key focus of your India visit?
First of all, I'm very honored to be in India again. I've been here before when I was in the European Parliament as chairman of the parliamentary delegation to India. Now, of course, our friendship is a topic, but also our cooperation on transferring green technologies from Denmark to India to strengthen our bilateral relations is of course very high on the agenda. But it's also important to stress that I think that we should have even closer relation between Denmark and India, Europe and India, because we share the same values. We are democracies. India is the biggest democracy in the world. We share the same values on human rights, freedom of speech, and I think that's very important in the years to come, because so much is happening in the world right now, and I think that we should also reach out to India and say, hey, we are your friends, we are on the same journey as you are, and in my view, if I come back in 5 years' time, I really do hope that we have a free trade agreement between India and the European Union. I'm sad that we could not finalize it before your election, but hopefully we will have a free trade agreement in the years to come.
Essentially, during your India visit, you're going to meet a number of officials. You've already met some of them. If you can talk about your meetings here in India.
Yes, I mean, we will of course also discuss what has happened in India in the last years. I'm very impressed when you read about what you have achieved. If you're going to public health, a lot of people in India, hundreds of millions, have now a health program. You have done a lot if it concerns to food programs and education. And so I see, an India who is developing very fast, and of course that is also something to be discussed with the high-ranking officials we are going to meet for many reasons, because I'm also very impressed that you have, in India, have said you will be carbon neutral in 2050, and you are really growing fast. You have an economic growth more than 8% per year. You have inflation less than 5%. So it's amazing what's happening in India right now.
Mm-hmm. So you're the Speaker of the Danish Parliament. Parliamentary engagement between the two sides. What kind of engagements or interactions do you plan to foresee? India is the largest democracy. It is proud of the fact. How does Denmark sees that?
Well, first of all, I'm impressed that a small country like Denmark, we can have high-ranking meetings. I mean, we are 6 million people. You are 1.4, 1.5 billion people. So that also shows that we are close friends. Otherwise, we couldn't have those meetings, high-ranking meetings in Delhi. Now, of course, I will also invite parliamentarians from India to Denmark. It will be an honor to receive people from India in my country. So hopefully we can also, on the political level, in all kind of levels, we can have even closer relationships, because, close relationships among people, that's what makes the world go around at the end.
Mm-hmm. India goes to elections in
Yes.
few days' time. There will be an announcement, perhaps in 2 or 3 weeks. This is seen as a dance of democracy. The largest number of humans going to polls is something magical in many senses.
Yeah.
How do you see the Indian electioneering process, the democracy in works when it comes to India, and of course something that is marveled across the world?
I mean, I think it's amazing that nearly 1 billion people, they can have do a vote in India, and it's a very good voting system you have. There's no fraud, and I know it takes a long period of time to finalize, because you have nearly 1 billion to vote. And I think there's a very good example to set for other countries around the world. we must remember that today there's less people living in what we call democracy than 20 years ago, and I think India sets an example for many developing countries to show that it is possible to have a democracy, it is possible to let your people vote, and it is possible to make it to make a system there where fraud is very difficult.
So you talked about the FTA. So how optimistic you are that it will be something that will be concluded? You are in a different setup of democracy. You are the speaker of the parliament. So essentially you're not part of the negotiations, but essentially what's your view like?
Well, when I visited India a few years ago, it was all about the free trade agreement. I met with your Minister of Finance, your Minister of Trade, and I stressed that a huge majority inside the European Parliament wants this to happen. Of course, it's not for me to negotiate, but I'm a great fan of the idea that we have a free trade agreement with India. I know that it's difficult because at the end of the day, the devil is in the detail, and of course there is also a lot to consider both in India and Europe. But having said that, I think it must be possible. I mean, EFTA, you will have an agreement with EFTA probably before the election. So I really do hope that both the Indian and European side will step up to the plate and make sure we will have a free trade agreement, because that will really makes a difference for our cooperation in the future.
And sir, my last question to you is, any relation, the bedrock is and are the people of these two countries, India and Denmark. How do you see the engagement happening? How do you see both the parliaments working together to increase this kind of engagement between the two sides? And anything on the parliamentary practices that you see which can be adopted, or something that you found interesting here in India?
Well, you know, in Denmark we have also an India population, and they are making a difference. They are very good business-wise. We have a lot of engineers. We are talking about if other young people could go to Denmark to work. You have a very active ambassador in Denmark. She's a popular ambassador. She is very good to reaching out to the Danish society. She have events, you know, where invites all kinds of people from Danish society to meet the Indian business society. So we are closely connected. But of course, in many ways, it's difficult to take it one-to-one, because you are 1.4 billion people and we are only 6 million people. But having said that, I mean, the mindset when I meet and speak with the ambassador, your ambassador in Denmark, when I speak to high-ranking officials in India, it's more or less the same. I mean, we want the best for the people. We want the best for the Danes. You want the best for the Indian people. You have a long road to go, but you have achieved so much in India in the last 5-10 years. So I think it's amazing, and I wish India the best of luck in the years to come. And I really do hope that Denmark and India will continue our friendship as we have had for the last 75 years.
I was coming to that additional question of me. This is the logo of 75 years of the relationship. Anything specific planned for 75 years? How do you plan to celebrate the 75 years of this relationship?
There will be a celebration also in Denmark, and I have a very close connection with the Indian ambassador to Denmark, and there will be different events taking place. And our Minister of Foreign Affairs, our former Premier Lars Løkke, he started this up only I think a week or two ago. So we will start giving it out to a lot of people in Denmark to remind the Danes that we have a very good relation, and hopefully it will continue in the years to come.
On that note, thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure speaking to you and understand your viewpoint about India and how both countries can work together. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.